Our innovation is not a software program. It's a software-based workflow innovation. And one of the best ways to understand exactly what we mean by that is to compare the traditional movie industry workflow with the workflow of the high-rise construction industry, another industry we have a background in. And the comparison is a telling one, because each high-rise is artistically unique, just like a big-budget movie, and because each high-rise costs many tens of millions of dollars, just like a big-budget movie. Now, everyone knows that the high-rise construction workflow starts with an architect, or often a team of architects. But it isn't really accurate to say that an architect works in the medium of high-rise buildings, because in fact, an architect works in the medium of technical drawings, 2D artistic renderings, or 3D models. And of course, the younger members of the profession create those same items with computers. So architects don't really build big buildings. They design big buildings in a design medium. And that distinction is important to this discussion. And the reason they work in those design mediums is because those design mediums are cheap. And they need to be cheap, because design work in any field requires designs to be continuously improved over many, many iterations. And while an architect is developing his designs over many iterations, he's also involved with a continuing back and forth with the engineers, who have to blend in the technical requirements of things like plumbing, air conditioning, fire escapes, and what have you. And those technical components have to be continually adjusted as the architect works through his many, many preliminary designs on his way to his final design. Then, when his final design and all the engineering is complete, the sum total of both those components are expressed in the form of blueprints. And it's these blueprints that the big construction firms bid on. They can't just bid on a pretty picture. They need all the nitty-gritty details in order to budget accurately. Then, when they've won the bid, they assign the job to one of their construction managers. And it's her job to execute, or to realize, to make real, what's expressed in those blueprints. From the ground floor to the top of the roof, that's her domain. But at no time does she have the authority or license to change any aspect of the architect's design. So for example, she's not allowed to change the little stair-step pattern near the top of this building into a straight diagonal line just because she thinks it would look better. Nor is the architect allowed to come to the construction site and complain that he doesn't like the way she's hanging the precast. And that's because the workflow model in the construction industry is entirely compartmentalized. The design phase comes first, and only when it's 100% finished does the construction phase begin. Now, for the sake of this comparison with movies, we're going to change that term construction to production. But the important point is that the two phases are separate. They're sequential. While movies don't have two separate phases. A movie has just one long phase where both design and production functions are being executed simultaneously. If a movie had two distinct phases, filmmakers wouldn't spend weeks building a set, days shooting a complicated scene on that set, only to edit that scene and that set completely out of the movie later. So the movie workflow model in this regard is the exact opposite of the high-rise workflow model. Now, if you were to impose this purple one-phase design-as-you-produce model onto the high-rise industry, you'd have an ugly, dysfunctional building that costs 10 times what it would cost in the two-phase design-and-then-produce model. In other words, you'd have the high-rise equivalent of John Carter, a movie famous for having horribly low quality and a terribly high price. So it's our position that budget and box office catastrophes like this only happen because movies are made in this purple one-phase system. But they're only made in one phase because through most of the history of the movie industry, they had to be made in one phase. Because the superior two-phase system only works if there's an inexpensive design medium for the artist to work in. Without an inexpensive design medium to work in, any artistic effort is forced into the inferior one-phase model. But modern technology finally offers an inexpensive design medium for filmmaking, a medium where artists can make and remake a movie again and again, improving and perfecting their design the same inexpensive way that so many artists in other fields enjoy. And those designs can be checked and budgeted by the movie equivalent of engineers, who can now budget with laser accuracy because they're no longer guessing as to precisely what the finished movie is going to be and what will be required to deliver it. And this precise template for the finished film and the precise engineering for execution can be synthesized into the movie equivalent of a blueprint, which can then be handed off to the movie equivalent of a construction manager for delivery, which gives us better movies at radically discounted prices with complete transparency and foreknowledge for investors.